Art is supposed to reveal the soul. So why does my house feel like a museum where the exhibits are all fake? I'm Professor Luca Matthews, 45 years old, teaching American literature at Portland State. My wife Elena owns the most prestigious contemporary art gallery in downtown Portland. We live in a converted warehouse overlooking the Willamette River, surrounded by carefully curated paintings and sculptures that cost more than most people's cars. Everything looks perfect from the outside. But perfection, I've learned, is just another word for deception. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. It started 3 months ago with small things. Elena's phone, always face down on the dinner table. New jewelry I didn't remember buying her. Credit card charges at restaurants I'd never been to, always listed as client meetings. The way she hummed while getting dressed, applying perfume with the careful attention of someone preparing for a performance. Tonight, she's doing it again. Standing in our bedroom mirror, adjusting a black dress that hugs her curves in all the right places. Her dark hair is swept up in that effortless style that actually takes an hour to achieve. She catches me watching and smiles. "Late night at the gallery again," she says, not quite meeting my eyes. "We're preparing for Matteo's exhibition next month. You know how these artists can be. So temperamental about their work." Matteo. The name has been coming up a lot lately. Matteo Rossi, 33 years old, rising star in the contemporary art scene. All cheekbones and artistic intensity, according to the local arts magazine that featured him last month. Elena keeps a copy of that magazine in her office, bookmarked to his interview. "Of course," I say, keeping my voice neutral. "Don't wait up for me. I have papers to grade." She kisses my cheek, leaving behind the scent of expensive perfume and lies. The front door closes with a soft click, and I'm alone with the silence and my growing suspicions. I pour myself a glass of wine, a bottle Elena brought home from one of her mysterious client meetings, and wander through our house. Every room tells the story of our 12-year marriage. The living room where we used to read together on Sunday mornings. The kitchen where she'd dance while cooking, pulling me into impromptu waltzes between the island and the stove. The study where we'd debate literature and art until dawn, her passion for visual beauty matching my love of written words. When did it all become performance art? In the study, I find the first piece of evidence. A wine glass on the side table, stained with lipstick that's definitely not Elena's usual shade. Too dark, too bold. When I ask her about it the next morning, she waves dismissively. "Oh, that must be from my meeting with Sarah Chen. You know how she is with her dramatic makeup choices." But Sarah Chen doesn't wear lipstick. I've known her for 5 years, and she's strictly a lip balm kind of woman. The lie sits between us over breakfast like an unwelcome guest. The second piece comes a week later. An earring under the guest bed, small, silver, expensive. Not Elena's style at all. She prefers gold, always has. When I hold it up, she barely glances at it. "Probably fell out of my jewelry box when I was organizing," she says, but her voice has that careful quality it gets when she's constructing a story. That's when I decide to become an active participant in whatever game we're playing. I've always been good with words. It's my profession, after all, so I begin writing letters. Not as her husband, but as her secret admirer. Anonymous, poetic, filled with the kind of romantic intensity that real life rarely provides. I mail them to the gallery, watching her face when she opens them during our increasingly rare dinners together. The first letter arrives on a Tuesday. Elena's reaction is immediate and telling. Her cheeks flush, her breathing quickens, and she quickly folds the paper and slips it into her purse. That evening, she's more animated than she's been in months, talking about the gallery, about art, about passion and creativity. She thinks she knows who sent it. "Someone left me the most beautiful letter today," she says over dinner, her eyes bright with excitement. So poetic, so understanding of art and beauty. It's like someone finally sees who I really am. I nod sympathetically, playing the role of the concerned husband. "That's wonderful, darling. Though I hope you're being careful. You never know with these artistic types." She laughs, the sound bright and musical. "Oh, Luca, you worry too much. Some people still believe in romance, in grand gestures. Not everything has to be analyzed to exhaustion like one of your novels." The criticism stings because it's designed to. She's creating distance, justifying whatever she's planning to do. Or perhaps what she's already done. I write a second letter, more passionate than the first. This time I quote Neruda, mixing Spanish phrases with English, creating the kind of bilingual poetry that would appeal to someone infatuated with an Italian artist. I watch her read it in the gallery through the window, see her press it to her chest like a teenager with a love note. That night, I find her second phone. She's in the shower, singing off-key like she used to when we were happy. Her purse sits on the dresser, and something makes me look inside. Beneath her wallet and keys, wrapped in a silk scarf, is an iPhone I've never seen before. The screen lights up when I touch it, revealing a string of text messages. Can't wait to see you tonight. The studio will be empty after 8. Thinking about your hands on my canvas, and other things. Elena, you drive me crazy. Leave him. The contact name is simply M. Matteo, obviously. My wife has a secret phone for her secret affair with the temperamental artist whose career she's building. How perfectly predictable. I photograph the messages with my own phone, then carefully replace everything exactly as I found it. When Elena emerges from the bathroom, wrapped in a towel and glowing with anticipation, I'm sitting in bed with my laptop, grading papers like the boring, predictable husband she's obviously decided I am. Working late again, she asks, her tone suggesting she couldn't care less. You know me, I reply, always buried in someone else's words. She gets dressed quickly, jeans and a sweater, casual clothes for a casual betrayal. I'm meeting Marina for drinks. Girl talk, you know. Don't wait up. Marina is her best friend and business partner, the gallery manager who's been encouraging Elena's artistic growth for months. I suspect Marina knows exactly where Elena is really going, and it's not to any bar for girl talk. After Elena leaves, I pour another glass of wine and sit in my study, surrounded by books and betrayal. The house feels different now, charged with the electricity of secrets and lies. I'm no longer just a husband being cheated on. I'm a scholar studying deception, a writer crafting a story, a man planning his own masterpiece. Because if Elena wants drama, if she wants passion and grand gestures and artistic intensity, then that's exactly what she's going to get, just not in the way she expects. I open my laptop and begin typing the third letter. This one will be different. This one will begin to plant seeds of doubt and confusion. Because the best revenge isn't hot anger. It's cold, calculated, and absolutely devastating. Art is supposed to reveal the soul, and I'm about to create a masterpiece that will reveal everyone's true colors, starting with my wife's. The next morning, Elena hums while making coffee. She's wearing one of my old button-down shirts over black leggings, her hair messy in that deliberately casual way that takes effort to achieve. She looks younger, more vibrant than she has in months. Adultery apparently agrees with her. Sleep well? I ask, watching her over my newspaper. Like a baby, she lies smoothly. Marina and I stayed out later than planned. You know how she gets when she starts talking about the gallery politics. I nod sympathetically, though I know Marina was posting Instagram stories from her apartment all evening, binge-watching Netflix with her cat. Elena's lies are becoming more elaborate and less careful. She's getting overconfident. Speaking of the gallery, I say, tell me more about this Matteo fellow. His work must be exceptional for you to invest so much time in his career. Her reaction is subtle but telling, a slight pause in stirring her coffee, a flush that creeps up her neck. He's talented, very passionate about his art. Sometimes that requires extra attention to nurture properly. I'm sure it does. I fold my newspaper and stand. Well, I should get to campus. Professor Adler wants to discuss the curriculum changes for next semester. David Adler has been my closest colleague for 15 years. He's 62, cynical about human nature, and divorced 3 times. If anyone will appreciate the irony of my situation, it's him. I find him in his office, surrounded by towers of ungraded papers and empty coffee cups. His gray hair is disheveled, and he's wearing the same sweater he had on yesterday. David has given up on appearances entirely since his last divorce. Luca, he says without looking up from his computer. Please tell me you're here with coffee or alcohol, preferably both. Neither, I'm afraid, but I do have an interesting story for you. That gets his attention. David loves stories, especially ones involving human folly and dramatic irony. I tell him about Elena's affair, about the secret phone and the mysterious letters. His eyebrows climb higher with each detail. Jesus, Luca, he says when I finish. You're taking this remarkably well. Most men would be throwing punches or hiring lawyers by now. Most men aren't literature professors, I reply. We understand that the best stories require patience and careful plotting. David leans back in his chair, studying me with the intensity he usually reserves for analyzing Shakespearean villains. What exactly are you planning? Nothing illegal, nothing violent, just educational. Elena wants passion and drama. She's about to get a masterclass in both. And you want my help. I want your expertise. You know everyone in this city's cultural scene. You hear all the gossip, see all the connections. If I'm going to orchestrate Elena's downfall, I need intelligence. David grins, the first genuine smile I've seen from him in months. Now you're speaking my language. What do you need to know? We spend the next hour planning. David tells me about Matteo's reputation, talented but arrogant, known for sleeping with gallery owners and wealthy collectors to advance his career. He's been in Portland for 2 years, leaving behind a trail of broken relationships and professional bridges in San Francisco. The art world is smaller than people think, David explains. Everyone knows everyone, and secrets have a way of becoming public knowledge very quickly, especially scandalous ones. He also tells me about the social hierarchy of Portland's art scene. There's a group of gallery owners, collectors, and critics who meet regularly at a wine bar called Palette. They call themselves the Cultural Committee, but everyone knows they're just gossips with expensive taste. What they discuss on Wednesday becomes common knowledge by Friday. Elena's reputation is built on being above reproach, David says. Professional, sophisticated, married to a respectable professor. If that image crumbles, her business crumbles with it. Perfect. That evening, I follow Elena to the warehouse district where many of Portland's artists keep their studios. She parks outside a converted brick building and disappears inside. I wait in my car, watching windows light up on the 3rd floor. After an hour, I see 2 silhouettes moving against drawn curtains, their bodies intertwining in an unmistakable dance. I take photographs with my phone's zoom lens. Not for blackmail, I'm not that crude, but for documentation. Every good story needs evidence. The next day, I mail the 3rd letter. This one is different, designed to create confusion and paranoia. My darling Elena, your beauty haunts my dreams, but I wonder. Do you think of me when you're with him? Does your husband suspect? Art requires sacrifice, but what are you willing to lose for love? Your devoted admirer. I watch her read it through the gallery window. Her reaction is immediate and alarming. She looks around frantically as if the writer might be watching, which, of course, I am. That evening, she confronts Matteo. I know because I've positioned myself at a coffee shop across from his building, watching through binoculars I borrowed from the university's astronomy department. Their argument is visible through his studio windows, animated gestures, pointing fingers, Elena pacing while Matteo sits calmly at his easel. She thinks he's playing games with her. He has no idea what she's talking about. The seeds of doubt are sprouting exactly as planned. But Elena isn't just a victim in this story. She's smarter than I initially gave her credit for, and she's beginning to suspect that her boring literature professor husband might not be as oblivious as he appears. I discover this when I come home early from campus and find her in my study, going through my papers. She's looking for something specific. Evidence that I know about her affair, perhaps, or proof that I'm the mysterious letter writer. Looking for something? I ask from the doorway. She jumps, knocking over a stack of student essays. Oh, you startled me. I was just looking for that book you mentioned, the one about modern art criticism. Another lie. I never mentioned any such book, and Elena has never shown interest in art criticism beyond its potential to sell paintings. It's on the shelf behind you, I say, pointing to a book I actually do own. Though I'm surprised you're interested. You usually prefer hands-on learning to academic theory. The double meaning isn't lost on her. Her cheeks flush, and she quickly leaves the room with the book clutched against her chest like armor. That night, I escalate. I wait until Elena is asleep, then slip out of the house. Matteo's studio building has poor security, a fact I confirmed during my earlier surveillance. The front door lock is old and simple, the kind any literature professor could pick after watching a few YouTube videos. His studio is on the 3rd floor, filled with canvases and the sharp smell of oil paint. His work is actually quite good, bold, emotional, the kind of art that makes people feel things. Under different circumstances, I might even admire it. But these aren't different circumstances. I don't destroy anything. That would be crude and obvious. Instead, I rearrange things, move paintings to different locations, switch the positions of brushes and palette knives, leave a single red rose on his easel with a note, for the artist who steals more than inspiration. The next morning, Matteo calls Elena in a panic. I hear her side of the conversation from the kitchen, where I'm making breakfast and pretending to read the newspaper. What do you mean someone was in your studio? Are you sure? Nothing's missing? Then how do you know? A rose? What kind of rose? Her voice gets higher with each question. When she hangs up, her hands are shaking. Everything all right? I ask, not looking up from the sports section. Fine, she says quickly. Just some drama with one of the artists. You know how paranoid they can be. Artistic temperament, I agree. Very unpredictable. That afternoon, I position myself at Palette, the wine bar where the cultural committee holds court. David was right. It's exactly the kind of place where gossip flows as freely as the overpriced wine. I order a glass of Pinot Noir and settle into a corner booth, listening to conversations about upcoming exhibitions, gallery politics, and personal scandals. Portland's art world is indeed small, and everyone seems to know everyone else's business. Marina arrives with two other women I recognize from gallery openings. They order a bottle of Chardonnay and immediately begin dissecting the latest drama in their social circle. "Have you noticed how glowing Elena's been lately?" Marina asks, her voice carrying clearly across the small space. "I mean, she's always been beautiful, but lately she's practically radiant." "New skincare routine?" suggests one of the others. Marina laughs knowingly. "Honey, no amount of moisturizer gives you that kind of glow. That's the look of a woman who's getting excellent inspiration." They dissolve into giggles, and I realize that Elena's affair is already common knowledge among her closest friends. They're not just enabling her betrayal, they're celebrating it. That changes everything. I finish my wine and walk home, my mind working through revised plans. Elena isn't just cheating on me, she's making a fool of me publicly, with the full support and encouragement of her social circle. They probably pity the boring professor who's too buried in his books to notice his wife's obvious affair. They're about to learn that still waters run very, very deep. That evening, I write 2 letters. One goes to Elena, more passionate and desperate than the previous ones. "My beloved Elena, I can't sleep, can't eat, can't think of anything but you. When will you leave him? When will we stop hiding? I'm going crazy with wanting you. Forever yours." The second letter goes to Matteo, delivered to his studio mailbox. "Mr. Rossi, I know what you're doing with Elena Matthews. Adultery is a dangerous game in a small city. Be careful who you trust. A concerned observer." Now they're both paranoid, both suspicious of each other and everyone around them. The foundation of their affair is cracking, and I haven't even begun the real demolition yet. Because the best revenge isn't just destroying what they have, it's making them destroy each other. The letters work exactly as intended. Over the next week, I watch Elena and Matteo's relationship deteriorate through a combination of direct observation and carefully gathered intelligence. Elena becomes obsessed with her mysterious admirer, spending hours crafting responses that she leaves in a designated spot behind the gallery. A loose brick in the alley wall that I discovered during one of my surveillance missions. Her letters are passionate, desperate, full of promises about leaving her husband and starting a new life with her true love. I photograph each one before replacing it with my own responses, creating a fictional romance that exists only in Elena's imagination. Meanwhile, Matteo grows increasingly paranoid about the warning letter. David, who's become my unofficial intelligence gatherer, reports that Matteo has been asking questions around the art scene, trying to figure out who might be watching him. He's convinced someone's stalking him, David tells me over coffee in his office. Apparently he's been getting weird phone calls at night. No one there when he answers. And someone's been following him, or at least he thinks so. I nod sympathetically, though I know exactly who's been making those calls and following him. It's amazing how creative you can become when properly motivated. Has he considered that it might be another woman? I suggest. Artists do tend to leave complicated romantic situations in their wake. That's what I suggested, David says. But he swears all his ex-girlfriends are on the West Coast. He thinks it might be a jealous husband. How perceptive of him. The real breakthrough comes when Elena makes a crucial mistake. She's so caught up in her fantasy romance that she starts taking risks, becoming careless about covering her tracks. She begins using her real phone to text Matteo instead of the secret one, forgetting that we share a phone plan and I can access the account online. The texts are revealing. Elena. My admirer is becoming more intense. I think he might do something dramatic soon. Matteo. Maybe you should tell your husband. This is getting weird. Elena. Absolutely not. Luca would never understand. He's too logical, too cold. He doesn't have a passionate bone in his body. Matteo. What if this guy is dangerous? What if he hurts you to get to me? Elena. Don't be ridiculous. It's probably just some lonely art collector with a crush. Besides, I can handle Luca. He's completely clueless about everything outside his precious books. Reading those messages is like being stabbed with a dull knife. Painful, but also clarifying. Elena doesn't just think I'm boring, she thinks I'm pathetic. Weak, someone to be managed and manipulated rather than respected or feared. She's about to learn how wrong she is. I decide it's time to accelerate the timeline. The monthly cultural committee gathering is next Friday, a formal dinner at the city's most exclusive restaurant, attended by everyone who matters in Portland's art world. Elena will be there, of course, as will Matteo, whose rising star status has earned him an invitation. It's the perfect venue for a public revelation. But first, I need more ammunition. I need Elena to commit fully to her fantasy. to burn all her bridges in pursuit of a love that doesn't exist. I write what will be the final letter from her mysterious admirer. My darling Elena, I can't wait any longer. Meet me Friday night at the Cultural Committee dinner. I'll reveal myself to you there, in front of everyone who matters. We'll announce our love to the world, and you can finally be free of your passionless marriage. Wear the red dress. You know the one I mean. It will be our beginning. All my love. I hand-deliver this letter to the gallery, slipping it under the door during the early morning hours when the street is empty. Then I position myself at a coffee shop across the street and wait for Elena to arrive. Her reaction is everything I hoped for. She reads the letter 3 times, her face cycling through excitement, terror, and determination. She immediately calls someone, not Matteo, but Marina. I need your help, I hear her say as she paces outside the gallery. Something big is happening Friday night. Life-changing big. Can you cover the gallery Saturday morning? I might not be available. That afternoon, Elena goes shopping. I follow her to the expensive boutique district, watching through windows as she tries on dresses. She settles on a stunning red number that costs more than most people's monthly rent. The same dress she wore to our anniversary dinner 3 years ago. The symbolism isn't lost on me. She's wearing the dress from our marriage to celebrate its destruction. That evening, she's more affectionate than she's been in months. She cooks my favorite dinner, opens an expensive bottle of wine, even suggests we watch a movie together. It's her guilt manifesting as kindness, her way of easing the conscience she still apparently possesses. You know I love you, right? She says as we're cleaning up the dishes. Of course, I reply. And I love you too, more than you know. It's not entirely a lie. I do love her, or at least I love who she used to be. But love and revenge aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes they're 2 sides of the same coin. Friday arrives gray and rainy, typical Portland weather that matches my mood. I spend the day making final preparations. I've reserved a table at the restaurant under an assumed name, positioned to give me a clear view of the entire dining room. I've also prepared a special surprise for the evening's entertainment. Elena spends hours getting ready, transforming herself into a vision of sophisticated beauty. The red dress hugs her curves perfectly, her dark hair is swept into an elegant updo, and her makeup is flawless. She looks like a woman preparing for the most important night of her life, which in a way, she is. You look stunning, I tell her as she checks her reflection one final time. Thank you, she says, but she's distracted, nervous. Will you be all right here alone? I know these gallery events bore you. I'll be fine. I have papers to grade and a new novel to start. You go have fun with your artistic friends. She kisses my cheek, her lips lingering a moment longer than necessary. I'll see you later. Another lie. According to her fantasy, she'll be running away with her mysterious lover tonight, finally free from her boring marriage to pursue true passion. I wait 30 minutes after she leaves, then drive to the restaurant. The Meridian is Portland's most exclusive dining establishment, the kind of place where reservations are made months in advance and the wine list requires a small mortgage. The Cultural Committee has reserved the entire back dining room for their monthly gathering. I take my position at the bar, where I can observe the dining room through glass doors while remaining hidden in shadow. The committee members arrive in clusters: gallery owners, museum directors, wealthy collectors, and influential critics. Elena enters with Marina, looking radiant and nervous in her red dress. Matteo arrives alone, scanning the room with the wariness of a hunted animal. He's dressed in an expensive black suit, his dark hair perfectly styled, but there's tension in his shoulders and doubt in his eyes. He approaches Elena cautiously, and I can see them having an intense, whispered conversation. The evening progresses with typical cultural elite small talk, discussions of upcoming exhibitions, gossip about art market trends, subtle competitions over who has the most influence and the best connections. Elena keeps checking her watch and scanning the room, clearly waiting for her mysterious admirer to reveal himself. As the main course is served, I make my move. I've prepared a small package containing copies of Elena's love letters, not the ones she wrote to her imaginary admirer, but the passionate emails she sent to Matteo during the early days of their affair. I've also included printouts of their text message conversations and several photographs I took of them together at his studio. The package is addressed to the head of the Cultural Committee with a note. Thought you should know what kind of artistic collaboration is happening at the Matthews Gallery. Some exhibitions are more private than others. I hand the package to a waiter, along with a $100 bill and instructions to deliver it during dessert. Then I settle back to watch the show. The revelation unfolds like a perfectly choreographed play. The committee head opens the package, his face growing increasingly shocked as he reviews the contents. He shows the materials to the person next to him, then another and another. Within minutes, the entire table is buzzing with whispered conversations and sideways glances at Elena and Matteo. Elena realizes something is wrong when the conversations around her gradually die away. She looks around the table, seeing the mixture of shock, disapproval, and barely concealed delight on her colleagues' faces. These people built their social lives on other people's scandals, and now she's provided them with the juiciest gossip of the year. Marina is the one who finally shows Elena the photographs. I watch my wife's face crumble as she realizes her private affair has become public entertainment. She looks wildly around the room, perhaps still hoping her mysterious admirer will appear to rescue her from this nightmare. But there is no mysterious admirer. There never was. There's only her husband, watching from the shadows as her carefully constructed life falls apart. Matteo tries to salvage the situation, standing up and attempting to address the room, but he's young and inexperienced in handling scandal, and his words only make things worse. He talks about art and passion and the need for creative people to follow their hearts, but to the committee members, he just sounds like a pretentious young man making excuses for sleeping with a married woman. Elena flees the restaurant, pushing through the dining room with tears streaming down her face. Matteo follows her, leaving behind a room full of people who are already composing the stories they'll tell about this evening for years to come. I finish my drink and drive home, arriving before Elena. I'm sitting in my study, grading papers as if nothing has happened, when she bursts through the front door. "Luca," she calls, her voice breaking. "Luca, something terrible has happened." I look up from my desk as she appears in the doorway, her perfect makeup streaked with tears, her elegant dress wrinkled from her desperate flight. "What's wrong?" I ask, standing up with appropriate concern. She collapses into my arms, sobbing against my chest. Someone has pictures. Oh God, Luca, I'm so sorry. I never meant for any of this to happen. I hold her gently, stroking her hair like a loving husband comforting his distraught wife. "Shh," I murmur. "It's going to be all right. Whatever it is, we'll figure it out together." But even as I offer comfort, I'm already planning the next phase of her destruction, because this is just the beginning. Elena's public humiliation at the Cultural Committee dinner was merely the opening act. The real show is about to begin. Elena spends the weekend in bed, claiming illness, but really hiding from the fallout of Friday night's disaster. Her phone rings constantly, reporters from the arts section of the local newspaper, former clients asking uncomfortable questions, and members of the Cultural Committee who want to hear her side of the story. She answers none of them. "Maybe it will blow over," she says Sunday evening, sitting at our kitchen table in her bathrobe, dark circles under her eyes. "People have short attention spans. Next week there will be some other scandal to occupy them." I pour her a cup of tea, playing the supportive husband role to perfection. "I'm sure you're right. These things always seem worse than they are." But we both know that's not true. Portland's art world is small and unforgiving, and Elena's reputation is built on being above reproach. The photographs and text messages have shattered that image completely. Monday brings worse news. 3 major clients cancel their contracts with the gallery, citing concerns about professional conduct and inappropriate relationships. By Tuesday, 2 more follow suit. Elena tries to maintain her composure, but I can see the panic building behind her eyes. "It's just temporary," she insists over dinner. "Once people calm down and remember my track record, they'll come back." Of course they will, I agree, though I know they won't. I've been making sure of that. You see, while Elena was hiding in our bedroom, I was busy reaching out to her clients. Not directly, of course. That would be too obvious. Instead, I've been having casual conversations with people I know through the university, mentioning my concerns about Elena's emotional state and professional judgment. I'm worried about her, I tell Dr. Sarah Williams, whose husband collects contemporary photography. This affair has really shaken her confidence. She's making impulsive decisions, taking unnecessary risks with other people's investments. Sarah, who's always prided herself on being ahead of cultural trends, immediately calls her husband. By evening, they've moved their collection to a different gallery. I have similar conversations with 5 other couples, each time expressing loving concern for my wife's deteriorating professional judgment. It's remarkable how quickly doubt spreads when planted by a trusted source. Meanwhile, Matteo is facing his own crisis. The scandal has made him toxic in Portland's art scene, but he's too proud and too stupid to leave quietly. Instead, he decides to fight back by positioning himself as the victim of a jealous husband's revenge. He gives an interview to the Portland Arts Weekly, painting himself as a passionate artist whose only crime was falling in love with a woman trapped in a loveless marriage. He describes me as cold, controlling, and emotionally abusive, a man who drove his wife into another man's arms through years of neglect. Elena is a beautiful, passionate woman who deserves better than a husband who treats her like a piece of furniture, he tells the reporter. She came to me starving for affection, desperate for someone who would appreciate her artistic soul. The article runs on Wednesday, complete with a brooding photograph of Matteo in his studio, surrounded by his paintings like a romantic hero. Elena reads it online and actually smiles for the first time since Friday. At least someone understands, she says, showing me the article on her laptop. Look how he describes our connection. A meeting of artistic souls, passion that transcends conventional boundaries. That's real love, Luca. That's what I've been missing. I read the article carefully, noting how Matteo portrays their relationship as a grand romance rather than a tawdry affair. He's rewriting history, turning Elena into his muse and himself into a misunderstood artist fighting for true love. Very romantic, I say neutrally. Though I'm not sure publicly attacking your husband is the best strategy for winning people over. Elena's smile fades slightly. He's not attacking you exactly. He's just explaining the situation from his perspective. Of course, I understand. But I don't just understand. I'm delighted. Matteo has just given me the perfect ammunition for the next phase of my plan. That evening, I write a letter to the editor of Portland Arts Weekly. Dear editor, I read with interest your recent article about Mr. Matteo Rossi and his artistic relationship with my wife. While I appreciate Mr. Rossi's creative interpretation of events, I feel compelled to provide some additional context. Elena and I have been married for 12 years. During that time, I have supported her career, celebrated her successes, and loved her unconditionally. If she felt neglected or unappreciated, she never expressed those feelings to me. Instead, she chose to conduct a secret affair while lying to my face for months. I don't blame Mr. Rossi for falling for my wife. She is, as he notes, a beautiful and passionate woman. But I do blame him for pursuing a married woman and then publicly humiliating her husband when their affair was exposed. As for being cold and controlling, I invite anyone to ask my colleagues and students about my character. They will find a man who believes in honesty, integrity, and treating others with respect, qualities that seem to be in short supply in certain artistic circles. I wish Mr. Rossi success in his career and hope he finds the love he claims to be seeking. I only ask that next time he look for it among women who are actually available. Sincerely, Professor Luca Matthews, Department of English Literature, Portland State University. The letter runs in Friday's edition, and the response is immediate and overwhelmingly supportive. Suddenly, I'm not the boring, neglectful husband. I'm the dignified victim of an artistic Lothario who seduces other men's wives and then blames the husbands for not being passionate enough. The university community rallies around me. Colleagues who barely knew Elena existed suddenly offer their support and share their own stories of divorce and betrayal. Students express outrage that anyone would attack their beloved Professor Matthews. The local media picks up the story, and suddenly I'm getting interview requests from newspapers and radio stations. Elena is furious. How could you do that? She demands, waving a printout of my letter. You made me look like a fool. You made Matteo look like a predator. I simply told the truth, I reply calmly. If the truth makes you uncomfortable, perhaps you should have considered that before conducting a public affair. Public? We were discreet. We never meant for anyone to find out. Discreet? I laugh, the sound sharp and bitter. Elena, half the art world knew about your affair. Marina was practically taking bets on when you'd leave me. You were discreet the way a forest fire is subtle. She stares at me, and for the first time since this all began, I see fear in her eyes. Not embarrassment or regret, but actual fear. She's beginning to realize that her boring, predictable husband might not be as harmless as she assumed. Who are you? She whispers. This isn't like you, Luca. You don't fight back. You don't attack people. You're right, I say, standing up from my chair. The old Luca didn't fight back. The old Luca trusted his wife, believed her lies, and ignored the obvious signs of her betrayal. But that Luca was a fool. This Luca has learned some very valuable lessons about human nature. I walk to the window, looking out at the city lights reflecting off the river. Did you know that Marina knew about your affair from the beginning? She's been encouraging it, helping you plan your meetings, covering for you when you needed alibis. Your best friend has been actively working to destroy our marriage. Elena's face goes white. That's not... Marina wouldn't... She told everyone at Palette about your glow, Elena. She joked about your inspiration with anyone who would listen. She's been dining out on your scandal for months. I turn back to face her, and she takes an involuntary step backward. And Matteo? Your great love? He's been bragging about his conquest to other artists, describing you as another notch on his bedpost. Easy target, I believe, was the phrase he used. Lonely housewife looking for excitement. These aren't direct quotes. I don't have recordings of Matteo saying these things. But I know his type, and I know how men like him talk about their conquests. The specific words don't matter. The emotional truth is accurate enough. Elena collapses into a chair, her face crumpling. You're lying. You're just trying to hurt me. I'm trying to educate you, I correct, about the people you chose over your husband, about the consequences of betrayal, about the difference between passion and love. I sit down across from her, my voice becoming gentler, but no less firm. Passion is what you felt when you read those anonymous letters, Elena. Love is what I felt when I wrote them. Her head snaps up, eyes wide with shock. What? The mysterious admirer who understood your artistic soul? Who quoted poetry and promised grand romantic gestures? That was me, Elena. Your boring, passionless husband was the one writing you love letters while you were sleeping with another man. The color drains from her face completely. No, that's not... You couldn't have... My darling Elena, your beauty haunts my dreams, I quote from memory. Art requires sacrifice, but what are you willing to lose for love? Every word came from my heart, even as you were breaking it. She stares at me in horror, finally understanding the full scope of what has happened. The letters telling me to meet my admirer at the Cultural Committee dinner? Also me. I wanted you to be there when your affair was exposed. I wanted you to experience the full drama of public humiliation while waiting for a lover who never existed. Elena begins to cry, not the elegant tears of earlier, but harsh, ugly sobs that shake her entire body. Why? She gasps. Why would you do this to me? Because you did it to yourself, I reply. I just provided the stage for your performance. I stand up, looking down at my wife, my beautiful, faithless, ruined wife. The gallery will be bankrupt within a month. Your reputation in the art world is destroyed. Your lover has abandoned you, and your friends were never really your friends at all. You have nothing left, Elena. Nothing except the husband you betrayed and the marriage you destroyed. She looks up at me through her tears, and I see something that might be hope flickering in her eyes. But we could try to rebuild, start over. I'll end things with Matteo, cut ties with Marina. We could move somewhere new, begin again. For a moment, I almost feel sorry for her. Almost. No, Elena, we can't. Because this isn't a story about forgiveness and second chances. This is a story about consequences. And your story isn't over yet. I walk toward the door, then pause and look back at her one final time. Oh, and Elena, you might want to check your email. I believe you'll find some interesting correspondence from your former clients. It seems several of them are considering legal action regarding their investments in Matteo's work. Something about fraudulent representations and conflicts of interest. I leave her sitting in the wreckage of our living room, surrounded by the beautiful art that no longer has any meaning. Tomorrow will bring fresh humiliations, new revelations, and deeper consequences. But tonight, I have one more letter to write. Not to Elena this time, but to someone who's been waiting in the wings for his moment in the spotlight. After all, Matteo still thinks he's the romantic hero of this story. It's time to teach him about the difference between fiction and reality. Saturday morning brings a new humiliation for Elena. The Portland Tribune runs a follow-up story about the gallery scandal, complete with financial details about her business losses and speculation about potential lawsuits from clients who feel they were misled about her relationship with Matteo. The article quotes several former clients expressing concerns about Elena's professional judgment and conflicts of interest. What they don't know is that I provided the reporter with most of these quotes, carefully crafted from conversations I've had with people over the past week. I trusted Elena Matthews to provide objective advice about art investments, says one collector I've never actually met. Now I discover she was personally involved with one of the artists she was promoting. How can I trust that her recommendations were based on artistic merit rather than personal feelings? Elena reads the article at our kitchen table, her hands shaking as she turns each page. They're making me sound like a criminal, she whispers. Like I deliberately defrauded people. Didn't you? I ask, pouring myself coffee with steady hands. You promoted Matteo's work while sleeping with him. You used your professional reputation to advance your lover's career. If that's not fraud, it's certainly unethical. She looks up at me with red-rimmed eyes. Since when do you care about ethics in the art world? You've always said it was full of pretentious people playing games with other people's money. I care when my wife's lack of ethics destroys our life together, I reply calmly. Though I suppose our life is rather overstating things at this point. The phone rings, and Elena lunges for it desperately. Hello? Oh, hi, Marina. Her voice brightens with hope. Thank God you called. I need to talk to someone who understands. But Marina isn't calling to offer support. I can hear her voice through the receiver, sharp and defensive. Elena's face crumbles as she listens. What do you mean you're distancing yourself from the situation? Marina, you're my business partner. You're supposed to... What? What investors? The conversation continues for several more painful minutes, with Elena growing more desperate and Marina growing more cold. Finally, Elena hangs up, staring at the phone as if it might bite her. Marina is pulling out of the gallery, she says numbly. She's found new investors, and she's starting her own space. She says my reputation is too damaged to recover from. I nod sympathetically. That's unfortunate, though not entirely surprising. Marina always struck me as someone who looks out for herself first. What Elena doesn't know is that I approached Marina 3 days ago with a business proposition. I offered to invest in her new gallery venture, providing the startup capital she needed to break away from Elena and establish herself as the premier contemporary art dealer in Portland. Think of it as a fresh start, I told her over coffee. You've built an excellent reputation, but Elena's scandal is going to drag down everyone associated with her. This is your chance to step out of her shadow. Marina, who's always been jealous of Elena's success and social status, jumped at the opportunity. She's been planning her betrayal for days, quietly contacting Elena's clients and artists to let them know she'll be available to serve their needs once Elena's gallery inevitably closes. The irony is perfect. Elena's closest friend is destroying her professional life with the same calculating coldness that Elena used to destroy our marriage. But Marina's betrayal is just the appetizer. The main course involves Matteo, who's about to learn that playing the romantic hero in someone else's story can be very dangerous. I've spent the past week researching Matteo's background, using my university access to databases and my network of academic contacts to dig into his past. What I've discovered is illuminating. Matteo Rossi isn't just a talented artist with a weakness for married women. He's a serial predator who's been using the same playbook for years. In San Francisco, he had affairs with 2 gallery owners and a museum curator, always positioning himself as the misunderstood artist seeking true love while systematically advancing his career through strategic seductions. He left San Francisco after one of his married lovers divorced her husband and expected Matteo to follow through on his promises of commitment. Instead, he disappeared overnight, leaving behind a studio full of unpaid debts and a woman whose life he'd destroyed for his own advancement. Portland was supposed to be a fresh start, a new hunting ground where his reputation hadn't preceded him. Elena was just his latest target, chosen for her influence in the local art scene and her obvious vulnerability. But Matteo made one crucial mistake. He underestimated the husband. I compile all of this information into a comprehensive dossier, complete with photographs, financial records, and testimony from his previous victims. Then I send copies to every gallery owner, museum director, and art critic on the West Coast. The response is swift and devastating. By Monday afternoon, Matteo's scheduled exhibitions in Seattle and San Francisco are canceled. 2 galleries that were considering representing his work withdraw their offers. A museum that was planning to acquire one of his paintings decides to reassess their contemporary collection priorities. Matteo realizes what's happening when his agent calls to inform him that his career is effectively over. In a panic, he drives to our house, demanding to confront me. I'm waiting for him. "Professor Matthews," he shouts from our front yard, his usually perfect appearance disheveled and desperate. "I know you're in there. We need to talk." I open the door calmly, studying the young man who thought he could steal my wife without consequences. He's still handsome, but there's a wild look in his eyes that suggests he's beginning to understand the scope of his situation. "Matteo," I say pleasantly, "what can I do for you?" "You know damn well what you can do." He steps closer, his hands clenched into fists. "You've been systematically destroying my career, spreading lies about me to galleries across the country." "I haven't spread a single lie," I reply truthfully. "Everything in those reports is factually accurate and well documented. If the truth is destroying your career, perhaps you should have made better choices." "You self-righteous bastard!" He's shouting now, drawing attention from neighbors. "You think you're so much better than everyone else, sitting in your ivory tower, judging people who actually live their lives with passion?" "Passion," I repeat thoughtfully. "Is that what you call seducing married women to advance your career? Because I have a different word for it." Matteo lunges forward, grabbing my shirt. "You destroyed everything. My career, my reputation, my relationship with Elena." I don't resist his grip, instead looking at him with the calm interest of a scientist observing a specimen. "Your relationship with Elena was built on lies and manipulation. I simply revealed the truth. As for your career, you destroyed that yourself through your pattern of unethical behavior." "What pattern? What are you talking about?" "Sarah Chen in San Francisco. Divorced her husband for you, then discovered you'd been sleeping with 2 other women the entire time. Maria Santos, the museum curator who lost her job when your affair became public. Jennifer Walsh, the gallery owner who invested her life savings in your work before you disappeared with another woman. His face goes white as I recite the names and details of his previous conquests. Where did you? I'm a research professor, Matteo. Investigation is what I do. Did you really think you could come to a new city and start fresh without anyone discovering your history? He releases my shirt and staggers backward. You're insane. This is insane. All of this because your wife fell in love with someone else? No, I correct him. All of this because you chose to target my wife as your next victim. Elena made her own choices, and she's facing her own consequences. But you made this personal when you decided to publicly attack my character and reputation. I step closer to him, my voice dropping to a whisper that somehow carries more menace than shouting. Did you really think you could call me cold and controlling in a public interview without any response? Did you think you could destroy a 12-year marriage and then play the victim when you faced consequences? Matteo backs toward his car, fear replacing anger in his expression. Stay away from me, I'm warning you. You're warning me? I laugh, the sound sharp and humorless. Matteo, your career is over. Your reputation is destroyed. Every gallery owner and curator on the West Coast knows exactly what kind of man you are. You have nothing left to threaten me with. He fumbles with his car keys, desperate to escape. This isn't over. I'll find a way to expose what you've done. Please do, I call after him as he drives away. I'd love to see you try to explain how revealing the truth about your behavior constitutes some kind of crime. I'm sure the media would be very interested in your perspective. Elena, who watched the entire confrontation from our living room window, comes outside as Matteo's car disappears around the corner. What did you do to him? She asks, her voice hollow. I educated him about consequences, I reply, the same lesson I've been teaching you. She stares at me as if seeing a stranger. I don't know who you are anymore, Luca. The man I married would never have done something like this. The woman I married would never have betrayed our vows, I counter. We've both learned things about each other, haven't we? That evening, Elena packs a suitcase. She's moving in with her sister in Seattle, at least temporarily, while she figures out what to do with the ruins of her life. The gallery will close within the week, and she'll be lucky to avoid bankruptcy. I suppose you're satisfied now, she says as she loads her car. You've destroyed everything I worked for, everyone I cared about. I didn't destroy anything, Elena. I simply revealed what was already broken. Your business was built on lies, your friendships were superficial, and your great love affair was just another transaction in Matteo's career advancement plan. She turns to face me one last time, tears streaming down her face. What about us? What about our marriage? Our marriage ended the night you first went to Matteo's studio, I tell her. Everything since then has just been the funeral. She drives away without another word, leaving me standing in the driveway of our empty house. Tomorrow, I'll begin the process of divorce. I'll sell the house, liquidate our shared assets, and start rebuilding my life without her. But tonight, I pour myself a glass of wine and sit in my study, surrounded by the books and papers that have always been my true companions. Elena was wrong about one thing. I do have passion. I have the passion of a scholar for truth, of a writer for perfect narrative structure, of a man who believes that actions should have consequences. Some people might call what I've done cruel or excessive. They might argue that Elena and Matteo have suffered enough, that revenge is beneath a man of my education and position. But they would be missing the point. This was never about revenge. This was about justice. This was about ensuring that people who treat others as disposable face appropriate consequences for their choices. Elena wanted passion and drama in her life. She wanted to be the heroine of a great love story. Instead, she became the cautionary tale in someone else's masterpiece. And that story isn't quite finished yet. 3 months after Elena left, I receive a call from Detective Sarah Morrison of the Portland Police Bureau. She's an old friend from graduate school who went into law enforcement instead of academia, and she has some interesting news about my wife's former lover. Luca, she says over coffee at our usual spot near campus, I thought you should know that Matteo Rossi was arrested in Los Angeles last week. I raise an eyebrow with appropriate surprise. Arrested? For what? Art fraud. Turns out he's been selling fake paintings to collectors, passing them off as original works by established artists. The FBI has been tracking him for months. This is news to me, though I'm not entirely surprised. Men like Matteo rarely limit their dishonesty to personal relationships. How did they catch him? Anonymous tip, Sarah says, stirring her coffee thoughtfully. Someone sent them a detailed dossier about his background, including financial records and testimony from previous victims. The investigation started with his romantic history, but it led them to discover the art forgeries. I nod sympathetically. Well, I suppose his past finally caught up with him. What Sarah doesn't know is that I sent that dossier to the FBI 6 weeks ago, after discovering some interesting discrepancies in Matteo's work during my research. It seems that several paintings he claimed to have created bore suspicious similarities to works by other artists. A little more digging revealed a sophisticated forgery operation that he'd been running alongside his seduction schemes. There's more, Sarah continues. The investigation has expanded to include several galleries that were selling his work. Apparently, there are questions about whether the gallery owners knew the paintings were fake. What galleries? I can't give you specifics, but let's just say that anyone who was promoting Matteo's work might want to lawyer up. Elena. Even 3,000 miles away in Seattle, the consequences of her affair are still unfolding. If the FBI investigation reveals that she was selling forged artwork, she could face federal charges. I excuse myself from coffee and immediately call Elena's sister in Seattle. Margaret has never liked me, but she's always been protective of Elena. Luca, she says, her voice cold. I'm surprised to hear from you. Is Elena there? I need to speak with her about something urgent. She's not taking calls from you. She's trying to move on with her life. Margaret, this is about Matteo Rossi. He's been arrested for art fraud, and the investigation might implicate Elena's gallery. She needs to know. There's a long pause. Art fraud? What kind of art fraud? I explain what Sarah told me, watching through my office window as students cross the campus quad in the afternoon sunlight. If Elena sold any of Matteo's work, she could be considered part of the conspiracy. She needs to contact a lawyer immediately. Another pause, then Margaret's voice, smaller now. I'll have her call you. Elena calls 20 minutes later, her voice shaky with panic. Luca, Margaret told me about Matteo. Is it true? Is he really in jail? It's true. And Elena, you need to think carefully about every transaction involving his artwork. If any of the pieces you sold were forgeries... Oh, God. Her voice breaks. There were 3 paintings. I sold them to the Hendersons, the Chens, and that collector from Vancouver. If they were fake... You need a lawyer, Elena, a good one. Don't talk to anyone else about this until you have legal representation. I can't afford a lawyer, she whispers. I'm barely surviving as it is. Margaret is letting me stay here, but I'm working at a coffee shop just to pay for groceries. For a moment, I feel a flicker of the old protectiveness, the instinct to shield her from harm that defined the first 12 years of our marriage. But then I remember the secret phone, the lies, the public humiliation. I'm sorry, Elena, but you made your choices. Please, she begs. I know I hurt you. I know I destroyed our marriage, but I never meant for any of this to happen. I was lonely, and he made me feel special. Special enough to betray everything we built together. Yes, she admits, her voice barely audible, and I'll regret it for the rest of my life. But please don't let me go to prison for something I didn't know about. I sit in silence for a long moment, listening to her quiet crying through the phone. This is the moment I've been building toward for months. Elena completely broken, utterly dependent, begging for my help. There might be something I can do, I say finally. Anything, please. I still have connections in the legal community through the university. I could make some calls, find you representation, but it would mean coming back to Portland to deal with this properly. I'll do it, whatever you want. And Elena? This would be a professional arrangement. I'm not offering reconciliation or forgiveness. I'm offering to help you avoid federal prison, nothing more. I understand. But I don't think she does. Elena still believes this is a story about a marriage that can be repaired, a love that can be rekindled. She thinks my offer to help is evidence that I still care about her, that somewhere beneath my anger is the man who once promised to love her forever. She's both right and wrong. I do still care about her, in the complicated way you care about someone who shared your life for 12 years. But love and justice aren't mutually exclusive. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is ensure that someone faces the full consequences of their choices. Elena returns to Portland the following week, moving into a small apartment downtown while she deals with a legal situation. I help her find an attorney, an excellent one who specializes in art fraud cases. I even offer to pay his retainer, which Elena accepts with gratitude and relief. What she doesn't realize is that the attorney, David Chen, is someone I've known for years through university social functions. He's competent and ethical, but he's also someone who keeps me informed about the progress of Elena's case. The investigation reveals that Elena was indeed an unwitting victim of Matteo's fraud. She genuinely believed the paintings were authentic, and there's no evidence that she knew about his forgery operation. However, her intimate relationship with the artist raises questions about her professional judgment and due diligence. The prosecutor is willing to offer a plea deal, David tells me over lunch. No jail time, but Elena would have to pay restitution to the buyers and accept a permanent ban from working in the art industry. It's a fair deal, considering the alternative. Elena would avoid federal prison, but her career would be over forever. She'd have to start completely over in a new field, carrying the stigma of her involvement in an art fraud case. What does Elena think about the offer? I ask. She wants to fight it. She believes that if she can prove her innocence, she can rebuild her reputation and eventually return to the art world. I shake my head. That's not going to happen, David. Even if she's completely exonerated, no one in the art world will ever trust her again. Her association with Matteo has destroyed her credibility permanently. I've tried to explain that to her, but she's not ready to accept it. She keeps talking about starting over, proving herself, earning back people's trust. Elena is still living in fantasy, still believing that she can somehow return to her old life if she just fights hard enough. She doesn't understand that some bridges, once burned, can never be rebuilt. I decide it's time for our final conversation. I invite Elena to dinner at our old house, which I've been preparing to sell. Most of our belongings are packed away, but I've left a few meaningful items visible. Photographs from our early years together, books we used to read aloud to each other, the painting we bought on our honeymoon in Italy. Elena arrives wearing a simple black dress and minimal makeup, looking older and more fragile than when she left. The months of stress and uncertainty have taken their toll. "Thank you for helping me with the lawyer," she says as I pour wine, the same vintage we shared on our anniversary 3 years ago. "I know I don't deserve your kindness after everything I've done." "You're welcome," I reply, though I should mention that David thinks you should accept the prosecutor's plea offer. Her face hardens. "I'm not going to admit to something I didn't do. I never knew those paintings were fake. I was as much a victim as anyone else." Being a victim and being responsible aren't mutually exclusive, Elena. You became involved with Matteo, you promoted his work, you made professional decisions based on personal feelings. Even if you didn't know about the forgeries, your judgment was compromised. So I should just give up? Accept that my career is over? That everything I worked for is gone? Yes, I say simply. Because it is gone. The art world is built on trust and reputation, and yours are destroyed beyond repair. Fighting the charges might keep you out of prison, but it won't give you back your old life. She stares at me across the dinner table, her eyes filling with tears. "Is that what you want? For me to lose everything?" What I wanted was a faithful wife and an honest marriage. What I got was betrayal and lies. What you lose now is a consequence of choices you made, not punishment I'm imposing. "But we could try again," she says desperately. "I know I hurt you, but people make mistakes. People forgive each other and rebuild their lives together. We could move somewhere new, start over." I reach across the table and take her hand, feeling the familiar warmth of her skin, the slight tremor that betrays her nervousness. For just a moment, I remember what it felt like to love her without reservation, to believe in our future together. "Elena," I say gently, "do you remember the night you came home from Matteo's studio for the first time?" She nods, confused by the change of subject. "You showered for 40 minutes. You used a different soap, washed your hair twice, scrubbed your skin until it was red, but you couldn't wash away what you'd done. You couldn't cleanse yourself of the betrayal." Her hand trembles in mine. "Luca, I knew that night. Maybe not consciously, but some part of me understood that everything had changed. You came to bed and kissed me goodnight, and I could taste the lie on your lips. I'm sorry," she whispers. "I'm so sorry." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't rebuild trust. Sorry doesn't erase months of deception. Sorry doesn't bring back the woman I married." I release her hand and stand up, walking to the window that overlooks the river. The city lights reflect off the water like scattered diamonds, beautiful and cold. "You want to know what the real tragedy is, Elena? It's not that you fell in love with someone else. It's that you never trusted me enough to be honest about it. If you had come to me and said you were unhappy, if you had asked for a divorce or suggested counseling, we could have ended our marriage with dignity and respect. I was scared," she says. "I didn't want to hurt you. So instead, you chose to humiliate me. You chose to lie to my face every day while conducting an affair with a man who saw you as nothing more than a career opportunity." I turn back to face her, and she flinches at whatever she sees in my expression. "Do you know what Matteo told his friends about you, Elena? He called you his insurance policy. He said sleeping with the gallery owner was the easiest way to guarantee his success in Portland. That's not true. He loved me. He used you, just like he used Sarah Chen and Maria Santos and Jennifer Walsh. You were just another stepping stone in his career, another conquest to brag about. Elena covers her face with her hands, her shoulders shaking with sobs. Stop. Please stop. The letters you thought were from him? The passionate declarations of love that made you feel so special? Those were from me, Elena? Your boring, passionless husband was the one writing you poetry while you were betraying everything we built together. She looks up at me through her tears, her face a mask of devastation. Why are you doing this? Why are you being so cruel? Because you need to understand the truth. About Matteo, about your friends, about the choices you made and the consequences you're facing. You keep looking for someone else to blame, some way to avoid responsibility for what you've done. I sit back down across from her, my voice becoming softer but no less firm. Accept the plea deal, Elena. Pay the restitution, accept the ban from the art industry, and start building a new life. Stop trying to salvage something that's already gone. And us? She asks. What about our marriage? Our marriage ended the night you first went to Matteo's studio. Everything since then has just been the funeral. She cries for a long time, great heaving sobs that shake her entire body. I sit quietly, watching her grieve for the life she's lost, the future she's destroyed. When the tears finally stop, she looks up at me with red, swollen eyes. I'll take the plea deal, she says quietly. Good. That's the smart choice. But I need you to know something, Luca. I did love him. Maybe it was stupid, maybe it was based on lies and manipulation, but for a few months I felt more alive than I had in years. I know, I reply. And that's exactly why we can never be together again. Because you were willing to destroy everything we had for a few months of feeling alive. Elena signs the plea agreement the following week. She pays restitution to the buyers of Matteo's forged paintings, accepts a permanent ban from working in the art industry, and agrees to community service. Her legal troubles are over, but her old life is finished forever. She moves back to Seattle, where she finds work as an administrative assistant at a nonprofit organization. It's honest work, but it's a far cry from the glamorous world of gallery openings and cultural events that once defined her identity. I sell our house and buy a smaller place near the university. I donate most of our art collection to the local museum, keeping only a few pieces that hold purely personal meaning. I return to my teaching and research, finding comfort in the predictable rhythms of academic life.